orientation started.
Welcome to Online Presenters Toastmasters Club. The purpose of this club is to improve learning skills for better webinars and online events. We do want to remind you that this meeting is being recorded. We use the stills and video excerpts for public relations and social media purposes. If you don't want to be in the videos, exceptions can be made on request. We remind everyone to either use earbuds or headsets. Mute yourself when not speaking. Mute yourself and turn your video off if you do anything distracting, such as getting up from your chair, or going someplace, or sneezing, or coughing. The controls are on the bottom left corner of the screen. You can also switch between gallery view and speaker view, and those controls are on the upper right corner of the screen. You may also chat with individual members or everyone in the meeting. To do so, kindly click on the chat button at the bottom center of the window to open the chat box. Please keep track of the time. Locate the thumbnail image of the timer. Consider asking for an audible cue. Use your own timing device or the Toastmasters timer application. If you would like to become a member of the club, attend at least 2 meetings as a guest. This is an advanced club. We ask that you've completed at least 6 speeches before joining our club. To request an exception, make a 1 to 2 minute speech about why you want to join. Exceptions are subject to a vote of the board. It's now showtime.
Yes, indeed, it is showtime. We are about 2 minutes from officially beginning our meeting, and tonight we'll begin our meeting with our officers election first, and then we'll dive into the regular details of our meeting. Is there anyone who would like to nominate themselves or others as part of our floor nomination? If you do, go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself or type into the chat box. I will ask this question 3 times to make sure that we have clearly given everyone the opportunity to step up if they choose so. Let me go ahead and share who we have so far from what we shared from last week. That currently I am the chair of the nomination committee, and here are the individual who's been nominated, and they have accepted their nomination for our next annual term starting July 2019 to June 2020. President Lois McGolan, VP Education John Quick, VP Membership Elaine Nieberding, VP Public Relations Jacinta Watkins, Secretary Monica Tucker, Treasurer David Carr, Sergeant at Arms Lou Brown. These are accepted their nomination, and we will be presenting these individuals up for the vote. Let me ask a second time if there is anyone would like to any member nominate anyone else from the floor. Go ahead and raise your hands or unmute yourself. Seeing none, I'm going to ask the 3rd time if there is anyone would themselves or another members to become any one of the officers' role for our next annual term.
Roger, before we take a final vote, I'm going to swing over to Monica, who, congratulations, was just elected division director, and confirm that you're still good being on. First of all, congratulations. Yay. And are you still good being on as our secretary?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to confirm with you.
Thank you very much. And Monica is also currently our secretary, and she is making sure that we have these noted in terms of who, what, when, where, how, and everybody is here. And hopefully, we're showing 26 participants. I'm going to ask real quickly, if you are not a member of our club, would you raise your hand and keep your hands up real quick? If you're not a member of our club, please raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we're exactly at 20 members. Thank you very much. I'll have to double check and see. I think we might need a few more members to make quorum. So that is a question. Yes, Mike, did you have a question, Mike? Or you just have your hands up? Mike Woodall. If you can unmute yourself, Mike.
I was wondering if you'd make quorum.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I don't have my spreadsheet open. I believe we need over 23 to have quorum. Yes.
Roger, do we have any inactive members that won't count for the quorum?
Unfortunately, we have not done any definition in terms of what it means to be indefinite, even though we can pass everything and most likely it will be okay. But
do we really need a quorum for an uncontested election?
Well, here's what I would suggest that we do. I think that maybe we can just go ahead and take the vote because there's no uncontested, and that we will announce it at the through email. And if there is any concerns or questions or additional votes that they will collect, and we'll make that. If that sounds okay for everybody, then let us put this to vote. If those who are in favor of the slate of officers presented earlier to be our officers for July 2019 to June 2020, unmute yourself or with your hands say yay.
Yay.
Yay. Those who oppose say nay. Vote is unanimous. Congratulations to Lois and the whole crew. And it is fitting that the theme for tonight is election or voting. And I will let our Toastmaster of the evening to introduce the detail and let the show begin. Madam Toastmaster of the evening, Lois McGowan.
Thank you, Roger. Well, congratulations to the 2019-2020 Executive Board. It's going to be a great year. I'm looking forward to it. But this is going to be a great meeting, so I don't want to look too far down the road. I want to enjoy where we are. This is indeed an advanced club. We are an online club, and our meeting is broken up into 3 parts. First part is our formal speeches, then we have our table topics, and then we have our evaluation. As Toastmaster of the Day, I have lots of helpers, and I am very happy to introduce our helpers and ask them, why is their role so important? Let's start with our timer, Mr. John Quick. Would you please explain your role and the why?
Madam Toastmaster, we all know the timer is the most important role. It needs no explanation. But what I'll do today is I'll be flipping on these lights to cover myself up for our speakers and our evaluators, our table topics. If anybody wants an audio cue, just maybe type in the chat now saying I want it. Otherwise, I'll just use the colors.
Right,
Madam
thank you.
Toastmaster.
Our all counter, Jim Gould.
Madam Toastmaster, I will be your awe counter tonight. Everyone knows the awe counter is the most important role. And so when you do your voting and you hit those ballots, I want you to make sure that you go to the polling place and vote. But I'll be listening for the ahs, the ers, the no's, the crutch words, things like that. And I'll just be writing those down and we'll have a little report afterwards. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jim. Lou Brown, our grammarian.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Is everyone able to hear me okay? I'm testing some new
Yes.
microphone. Oh, awesome. Okay. As grammarian, I will be listening for interesting use of phrases, colorful words, incorrect usage. I will provide a report at the end of the meeting, and today, tonight, this afternoon, wherever you may be, our word of the day is polling. It is a adjective, I hope. Polling place, it sounds like it would be an adjective. It is the recording or opinion of voting. I think I just kind of use it in a sentence a little bit there. Our polling results will be shared with us by our vote counter at the end of today's meeting. Now,
Thank you.
Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lou. Our watcher, Monica Tucker.
Good evening for people where I'm at. I'm in Tennessee. I'm watcher tonight, and I will be watching the different screens of everybody and reporting at the end of the meeting when I'm called upon. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Monica. Our chat monitor, Toastmaster Nick Connie.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Gives me great pleasure to be chat monitor today, and note that this is the most important role because you have the ability to communicate directly with our silent Toastmaster Bob Turrell. So welcome, Bob. It's really important that we actually put comments in there, supportive, suggestive, and funny. But what's really important is that we send our votes privately to the vote counter, and you can also use the chat box to actually send private message to each other. The one thing I would ask is, when speakers are speaking, please desist from making comments at that time. Otherwise, you're all good. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Nick. Our vote counter, David Carr.
I don't know what these other people are talking about. Clearly, the vote counter is the most important because I keep score and I decide who wins here for table topics, best speaker, and evaluations. My background is supposed to be a bunch of hanging chads because I'm feeling nostalgic from the days when we didn't need foreign interference to screw up United States elections. We just needed dim-witted Floridians. You can send your votes to me via private chat. So in the chat box, you can there's a little drop down that either says everyone, or you can pick my name. Guests are allowed to vote. I don't know what our custom is in this club, but there's fun thing about this club. We have people from all over the world, so everyone runs according to the customs of their home club. It's like what Dave Barry says about drivers in Florida, all according to the language, the laws of their own country. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. All right, let's give a round of applause to all of our helpers today. Thank you very much. We are ready to get started. We do have 3 speakers. There is John Callaghan. John is giving his icebreaker. This is a 4 to 6 minute speech, and the title is The Label We Wear. Please welcome John, The Label We Wear.
The line for registration went down the hall and right out the back door. Everybody lined up to register for the conference. We're all there, headed in line, waiting patiently to get our registration, to get up front and to get our coveted name tag so that we could then be able to go in and see the speeches. I noticed a number of people coming back down the aisle who had their name tags, and they had little labels on that name tag, sometimes pointing out where they were from, sometimes pointing out a role that they had in the conference. And it got me thinking that those name tags would be a great way to introduce yourself to other people. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, this is my icebreaker, and I wanted to introduce myself by telling you 3 things that I would put on my name tag as labels to introduce myself to this group. Label number 1, business owner. I have been self-employed now for 25 years. I started my first business back in 1994, had a great run of it, but in 2001, when 9/11 happened, my business crashed as well. 9/11 cut out every piece of business I had, and I went from a staff of 10 to a staff of 2, and eventually sold the business. No choice. Started business number 2, and business number 2 is as an independent marketing consultant. I go into businesses and I analyze their processes, I analyze their materials, and I fix it. And as a result, the business grows. Now, I have, through no intention, just pure dumb luck, stumbled into a niche that is rather unique. Funeral homes. I actually have funeral home clients all over the United States, Canada, and Australia. I've never been a funeral director. I don't even like funerals, but this is where I've ended up. I have a process that I take my funeral home clients through that re-engineers their business to provide what people want today, not what they wanted 30 years ago. So we completely reinvent the funeral, then we reinvent the marketing, and the business grows. Now, one of the things I really love about this business is I can do it from anywhere. As long as I've got a cell phone connection and an internet connection, I can do this job from anywhere in the world. That's label number 1. Label number 2 is as an empty nester. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, what that means is when you've reached the age where your children have finally left the nest. And yes, we've reached that point. My wife and I have 4 children, and they're all gone. The youngest is now 20, and he's off at college, and we have the flexibility and the joy of having no children around all the time, which, God bless them, we love them. But after 30 years of having kids around all the time, it's nice to have a break. So anybody who's been an empty nester, you know what I'm talking about. It's nice. The third label that I would put out there is I'm also an immigrant. Now, I immigrated from Canada to the United States 40 years ago. I came down here originally to attend college. As the story goes, I met a young lady. The next thing you know, I'm still here 40 years later. I got through my entire student visa process, then a fiance visa, then my green card, then my citizenship, and all of the stuff that you do in order to become an American. So I went through that whole process years ago. Now, what's interesting is my wife and I are now planning on flipping that around and leaving the United States and going to see some other parts of the world. Why? Because I can work from anywhere in the world. She's just taken an early retirement, and we don't have grandchildren yet. Now's the time to do it. So our plan is to go and spend a year or 2 or 3 somewhere else. Last winter we were in Mexico. Next winter we might go to Mexico, might go somewhere else. But within 2 years, our plan is to be immigrants once again. So those would be the 3 labels that I would put on my name tag. I would have business owner, empty nester, and immigrant. And as I was standing in that long line, waiting for my chance to finally because I wasn't there to attend the conference. I was there to present at the conference. And so within 2 hours, I had an audience of 500 business owners in front of me, and I gave them the best pitch I could using all of my Toastmaster skills. At the end of the day, successful, and it was well worth waiting in line. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, John. Fabulous speech. Well, we definitely got to know you a little bit. Our second speaker is Toastmaster Therese. This is Therese's Leadership Development Level 1, Mastering the Fundamentals, Evaluation and Feedback, second speech. The title of this speech is The Secretary Problem. The Secretary Problem was first published in an article in Scientific American in the 1960s, back in the day when there were secretaries and they were assumed to be women. The problem was published as a puzzle for mathematicians' fun, but does have real-world application. Please help me welcome Therese Q to speak on the Secretary Problem.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most honored guests. Let me tell you about an imaginary meeting that I had with Roger recently. Roger contacted me and he said, Therese, we need to hire an outside secretary. And I really could use a volunteer to help me to interview and to do the hiring. Can you do that? I said, sure, I can help you, Roger, no problem. Roger said, you know, our club is pretty amazing and is really popular. I'm thinking we're going to have like 100 or, you know, even like in Google, there might be 1 million applicants. How are you going to handle that? And we do want you to find the best, of course. I said, Roger, no problem. I will find the best. And I'm thinking, the best. That's a comparison. So I say, okay, Roger, this is the idea. What do you think about this? What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a Zoom session where I have each interviewee come one at a time and I will interview them. And at the end of the interview, I will tell them right away whether they are hired or, you know, I will move on. So at that point, if I hire, then we're done. We have our position filled. If not, then I just move to the next person. Roger says, that sounds pretty good, but can I clarify, does that mean if you tell them no hire, then they get offline and they're gone? Gone forever? You can't go back? Nope. Yeah. Roger, you got it. That's right. But how about if I give you an example and walk you through how I'm planning to do this? So I tell Roger that I will, you know, if I get one applicant, then of course the job is easy. We hire that one applicant. But then if we have 2 applicants, then, well, I could interview the first person, or I could just simply take that first person, or I could, you know, not take the first person and by default I get the second person. And well, I have a 50-50 chance of picking the best person, so it really doesn't matter. It's a toss up, toss a coin, pick one, and it's a 50-50 chance to get the best. So, but when I have 3, then it starts to get a little interesting and I can use a little strategy. So what my strategy will be is that I will not take the first person. I will look at that first person to sort of get a feel for what we want. And then I will look at number 2 as being my pivot point. And if number 2 is better than number 1, then that's a hire. If not, then I'll take my last chance and I'll go to number 3. Well, you know Roger. Roger's an optimist, and Roger says, but that's all fine and dandy, but we're a great club. I think we're going to have like 100, or even like Google, we'll have 1 million applicants. How are you going to handle that? No problem, Roger. You see, the mathematicians, they figured this out. They have this thing called the 37% rule. What the strategy is that you look for 37% of the time, and then you leap at the next great applicant that is better or surpasses anything that occurred in that first 37%. And what happens is you get 37% chance of choosing the best. Roger says, whoa, that sounds pretty good, especially, he says, I'm so busy that if it were up to me, it would be kind of like a random choice. So if we have the 100, you know, applicants, then it would be like a 1 in 100 chance that I would randomly pick the right one. And that's 1% chance of picking the best. That's not so good. And if it's 1 million, you know, it really could be 1 million, then that's like a 0.0001% chance of picking the best. So 37% all the time, that sounds good. took a minute and he came back and he said, you know, that means that we're 63% chance of not picking the best. My reply, okay, guys, I see on your faces you're saying, okay, that's mathematician, blah, 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 blah. We don't care what the mathematicians do while they're sitting on the john and they have, you know, just some problems that they feel like thinking about. We want real world decision-making help. Well, guess what? You do have real world decisions that you do in series where you take one decision and you throw out an answer and then you make the next decision and you have to choose and you can't go back. Maybe you can think of a few. I did. Let's say, for example, last weekend I was going to my meeting that was downtown in Baltimore, and there was another event that was going on right in front of it. And so as I'm driving down Cathedral Street and I'm about 7 blocks away and I see a parking spot, I think, should I cut my losses and just park here and walk? Because once I pass it, there's no going back. And my son, this last month, he and some other guys, they rented an apartment in Manhattan, and they learned you look for a period of time, and then when you find the one that you want, you have 12 hours to get that check into that realtor's office because they're gone. And let's think, how about when you sell your house? Someone gives you an offer. Should you take the first one? Wait for the second, the third? Which one should you take? Oh, and really, you know, that Mr. Right and Miss Right, should you hold out? They still could be out there. Well, always remember, the mathematicians do say, quit while you're ahead. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Therese. Well, you had the green light, so I don't know what they were timing you on, but congratulations. Congratulations, Therese. I'm sorry. I don't know what they were timing, but you had the green light, so congratulations. Our third speaker is Toastmaster Assyl. Today's title of her speech is Dreams. Today's speech is about dream interpretation. Assyl is working on project number 2 of presentation mastery, evaluation, and feedback. She will learn about giving, receiving, and applying feedback. This is indeed a 5 to 7 minute speech. Please welcome Toastmaster Assyl.
Fellow Toastmasters and dear guests, do you have dreams that you had a long time ago and you still remember them? Have you ever wondered what your dreams were trying to tell you? When I was a student, I had this vivid dream. In the sky, with white, fluffy clouds, there was a long line of people standing in front of a big iron gate. And I was at the gate giving everyone tickets. Above the gate, there was a sign that started with the letter H. Do you think it said heaven or hell? Neither of them. It said human resources. I studied engineering for 3 years and economics for 2 years at Kazakh National Technical University, but I never worked as an engineer nor an economist. Maybe that dream was trying to tell me that my job career would start in the Human Resources Training Department, and one of my job responsibilities would be conducting the safety orientation for new employees, contractors, and visitors. After that, they would get access to everywhere in the field. The field, which was called Tingiz, was located in West Kazakhstan. There was a gas processing plant and camps with offices and living buildings. We worked rotationally, 28 days on and 28 days off, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was also a member of the Permanent Labor Safety Committee and worked closely with the Safety Department and the local environmental affairs, and was responsible for organizing the general safety exam for all employees of the company and specific exams for engineers and operators, such as industrial safety regulations for hoist lifting equipments, pressure vessels, boilers, gas facilities, and flare systems, and operation and maintenance of electrical equipment, and the electric power generation and distribution standards. So how can the blue sky with white fluffy clouds be interpreted in that dream? I have looked it up, and it said that sky is joy and spirit. I really enjoyed working in the training department. There were 3,000 employees, and with the contractors, there were more than 30,000 people, and I really loved communicating with them. But sometimes 12 hours wasn't enough for me because I interacted with people most of the time, and I had to come in early and leave late because I had to do work on my computer. So one of those rotations, I was very tired and saw this dream. I was driving a car on a rainbow. That car was unusual because I was sitting on one chair and holding only a steering wheel. It had nothing else. No doors, no windows, no roof, no sides, nothing else. I was driving slowly and looking around. The nature was stunningly beautiful. It was so peaceful and harmonious. When my daughter was born, I had to quit my job because I couldn't imagine leaving my baby for 28 days. I became a stay-at-home mom. When she was 3.5 years, we moved to America in 2009 and to Australia in 2013 because of her dad's job. In 2016, we came back to Kazakhstan. She didn't speak our native languages, Kazakh and Russian, well, so going to local schools was not an option. She started studying at an online school. And in 2 years, I joined Toastmasters clubs. I now understand what that dream was trying to tell me. Me sitting in that car, and it didn't have anything except a steering wheel, means online Toastmasters world. I can talk to people, I can see them online, but I don't see them in person. So surroundings is a Toastmasters and my emotions related to Toastmasters. And in that dream, a big bird appeared telling me, wake up. And that is myself doing projects and following the lead of my mentors and the feedback I get from fellow Toastmasters. So seriously, you can always tell yourself, wake up, and you can amaze how much potential you have in yourself. You can be a storyteller, you can be a speaker, you can be even a video maker. Most importantly, you can be a dream interpreter. So, do you have dreams that you had a long time ago, but you still remember them? Have you ever wondered what your dreams were trying to tell you? Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Assyl. Wow, 3 amazing speakers. Mr. Carr as our timer. John, can you please tell us how our speakers did?
Yes, Madam Toastmaster. John and Therese were within time. Assyl slightly over by 7 seconds. I'll put the exact times into the chat. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. Please vote for either John or Therese, and the polling is going to Mr. David Carr. Congratulations. We are now in part 2, which some people say are the best part. It's our extemporaneous speaking. To work with our table topics, please welcome our table topic master, Dr. Jacinta.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. Today is going to be an exciting day. Have a couple of table topics ready for you, and as you already know, today you're going to vote. For our guests, are there any guests that are uncomfortable with table topics today? If you can send me a private message and I won't call on you. If not, get ready to have a good time. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you have the opportunity to change the world. Your vote matters. Today, all of our table topics will include voting. The response should be vote for this particular candidate and tell us why you are going to vote for this person. We have a new leader of the free world, and you have 2 choices, only 2 candidates that you can pick. Your first choice is going to be either Dr. Evil or Austin Powers. Sybil, who would you choose to be the leader of the free world?
I would have to say I would vote for Austin Powers, just because he reflects my personality and my values. And I would also make sure that a lot of the polling places were in schools, because I read that when people vote in schools, they tend to vote more democratically. And when they vote in churches, they tend to vote more Republican. And so I would imagine that Austin Powers is more on the Democratic side. So I would have to vote for Austin Powers. And I'm not sure exactly how long you guys have to talk. I don't know if it's 45 seconds yet or not. But I think he would lead the world and our environment in a positive way. Even though it might be completely crazy, it would still be a lot of fun to be around. And that's it.
Thank you, Sybil, for participating in the vote. Now you have set the tone for the rest of our session. Table topics, the time is between 1 to 2 minutes. So thank you so much for bringing that up for the rest of our participants. Now that Austin Powers is going to be the new leader of the free world, we need to determine who is going to be head of security. You have 3 choices. First choice is Sean Connery. Second choice, Robert De Niro. Third choice, Al Pacino. Christopher, can you tell us who you would vote for and why you would vote for them?
I would vote for Sean Connery because he has the most experience. He's been around the longest. He was I don't know if he was the first James Bond, but I feel like he's been around enough, not only doing the job, but seeing other people do the job. So he would know exactly what had happened when he experienced being in that role and what happened when other people were in the role, so that he could basically perfect what went wrong and do the best thing besides that to correct their wrong, so to speak. And I think, I'm trying to think why else he would be qualified. He probably knows how to interview pretty well. And again, using his experience, he would be able to bring on a good amount of, he probably knows a lot of people that could do the job well. And so he would bring them on. And I think that Sean Connery has my vote, yes.
Thank you, Christopher. Now that we have our leader, our head of security, next role that we need to determine is who will be Austin Powers' bodyguard. Your choices are Daniel Craig, Sylvester Stallone, Angelina Jolie, or Jason Statham. Sherry, who would you vote for and why?
I would vote for Jason because he is obviously the cutest. Sylvester Stallone, I think, is a little bit past his years. I don't know if he'd do such an effective job. In addition, I would also vote for myself just to, oversee the bodyguard. Maybe I could be the one who makes his schedule. And I think he would work really well with our leader and our head of security. So Jason is my choice. And if I can put myself on the ballot to just be a co-worker, I would. I think he'd be a great driver. We've seen the movies. We know what he can do. We know he can also, he's a great fighter. And if anybody tries to hurt our head of state, he can just basically give them a smoldering good look and they will swoon. My vote goes to Jason.
Wonderful, Sherry. All right, so we have our leader, Austin Powers. Sean Connery is head of security. Jason Statham and Sherry are going to both be his personal bodyguard. Now we need to communicate that to everyone. All right, next choice you have for public relations. This person will be communicating everything Austin Powers wants to take place for his agenda as the new world leader. Your choices are Ben Stiller, Steve Carell, or Will Ferrell. Mike, who would you vote for and why? We can't hear you.
Well, can you hear me now? Well, to be quite honest with you, I wouldn't vote for any of those three. I would have to nominate someone else for this role because, well, I think these three are just a little too ridiculous, too over the edge for the public relations part of this, of running the country. So I would probably pick someone like Bill Gates or maybe or Angelina Jolie. She would be a great ambassador to promote our as a public relations. So that's what I have to say. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Mike, for the insightful response. Are you ready? We have just a few more to go. All right, we have our team set up and ready to go. Next, we need to determine who is going to be managing our money. Your choices are Sandra Bullock, Whoopi Goldberg, or Kate McKinnon. Elaine, who would you vote for and why?
We have Sandra Bullock, we have Whoopi Goldberg, and we have Kate McKinnon. Well, I would choose Kate McKinnon to handle the money. Kate McKinnon is an expert at picking up and depicting different personas. She does it so skillfully. When it comes to the arena of handling money, that's a touchy subject. And with different audiences, she might just have to adopt a different kind of character to connect and help them really understand the new initiative that Austin Powers wants to put forth. So that's why I would choose Kate McKinnon. Back to you, Madam Topics Master.
Thank you so much, Verlaine, for your response. Our last table topics question, ladies and gentlemen. Now that we've determined who the new world leader will be, security, bodyguards, who's going to handle the money, it's time to lighten up and have a good time and laugh. You have a choice of two people that can make you laugh. Your choices are Mr. Bean or Jack Black. Jimmy Dent, who would you pick and vote for and why?
Who was the second one?
Jack Black.
Okay. I would pick Mr. Bean. I just think he would do a great job using his humor and his slapstick comedy. He would definitely get everybody's attention. And of course, one party would always be against him. He would definitely be in the news. He's so far out, I think some people would be dumbfounded by what he would say and do before they could even criticize him. They might even have trouble digesting what his meaning was and what he said or did. So I think he would be very interesting, and he would add definitely some comedy to our government offices. So Mr. Bean is my choice. Back to you.
Thank you for your response. That concludes our table topic session. As a refresher, our table topic speakers were Sybil, Christopher, Sherry, Mike, Elaine, and Jimmy Dent. Now it's time for you to vote for best table topics. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jacinda. Before we set our votes, Mr. Timer, was everybody within the timing requirements?
Okay, based on timing, please vote for Christopher, Sherry, or Jimmy. Christopher, Sherry, or Jimmy. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. We are at our third part of the meeting, which some people say this is the most important part. It's our evaluations. And to lead us in evaluations, please welcome our president, Jimmy Dent.
Okay, thank you. This is the fun part of the meeting, and from my point of view, is hearing the evaluations and the feedback for everybody. I'm going to start off with our evaluators. Our first evaluator is Krishan, who, correct me if I'm wrong, he's going to evaluate John. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Ladies and gentlemen, what a life journey from John. John, thank you for sharing. When I was listening to you, I realized like life is short, but life is sweet, and life is worth living it because we get to have labels as we go along. My fellow Toastmasters, I don't know about you, but I heard a clear speech with a clear introduction, a clear body with 3 points as recommended by Toastmasters International, and a clear conclusion. And best thing of all from that was that John was using no notes. I didn't see any notes in his hands, and I'm sure he was not reading on the screen because he was standing and he was delivering. Very well done, sir. As John was moving along, he had also clear transitions, simple but effective. Number 1, business owner. Number 2, empty nester. Number 3, immigrant. And he also had dashes of humor because I was stopping myself from laughing. It was such serious, but there was at some point, I don't even like funerals, but this is where I ended up. I got to meet the girl, and 40 years later, hey, I'm still there. And I could see myself in John's footsteps. Thank you, thank you, thank you, John, for such a memorable delivery. And as I'm listening to you, it became a challenge for me to find room for improvement. But I got to find 2, which I'm going to share with you. Number 1, as I was looking at John, I saw his hands going up like this. And at some point, he was trying to use the hand gestures, and he was counting 1, 2, 3, but I couldn't see the whole hand. So my first recommendation, John, is when I'm using my hands, I need to make it visible, and I'm going 1.1, 0.2, 0.3. And even better, I just want to skip the thumb because in some language, in some culture, it's actually a swearing word. So I would go 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. My second recommendation, John, is something like if you tweak, it's going to make wonders for your next delivery. It's the power of poses. I'll give you an example. As you were starting the introduction, I wanted so much for you to use poses. If I were you, I would have done it like this. As I was in the waiting line, lining up, waiting for my turn to sign. Guess what happened? I got handed a label. And by doing that, you would have set the scene for me. You would have hooked me even more into your message. Nevertheless, John, you did something brilliant that got me stuck. You did the full circle method with your story. You started at the start with you waiting in the line, getting your label. And then at the end, you concluded with the same story. And guess what? You had the surprise 4th label. I wasn't waiting for that. And that connected well with me and with everyone else. I'm sure about it. So John, keep on the good work. Work on the poses. Be aware of the hand gestures. And I'm sure you're going to rock the floor. Mr. General Evaluator.
Okay, thank you, Krishan. Our next evaluator is Scott Johnston, who's evaluating Therese. Are you ready, Scott?
Yes, I am. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. Well done, Therese. That was a very informative and entertaining speech. I really enjoyed it. And since this was your second speech in leadership development, evaluation and feedback, you've done the speech before, and the feedback that you got, you did exactly you were told to cut down on your visuals. Well, I believe you did that, so congratulations on that. You're also told to stop repetition. There was very limited repetition within your speech, so congratulations there. And the big one is that you were concerned about the time, that you did well. You only spoke for 7 minutes 20, so you should be congratulated on that. I thought it was very well structured. You had great vocal variety. You had great pitch, tone, and you were very audible, so everybody could hear exactly every word. One of the things I really liked is your gestures, especially your facial gestures. Your facial gestures told us the whole story, and it was that made it so more exciting because we could actually see the passion and the enthusiasm in your face. A couple of points for improvement, I think. I really love the dialogue, but just be cautious. at the start of your speech, you tend to go quite back and forward quite a few times with Roger. And, we sort of, to me, and maybe the other audience, we were sort of excluded from the speech. So just keep an eye on that dialogue. Going back and forward a couple of times, that's great, but just be cautious of not too many times. And your screen, as you said, you cut down on your visuals, but you had your three little persons behind there. But unfortunately, your head was in the road of one, and a lot of the time we couldn't see the cross. So maybe next time move to one side so we can see the three. But overall, I thought it was well structured. You had good vocal variety. You had great gestures, especially those facial. Love the dialogue. A lot of people don't use dialogue, but just be cautious you don't use dialogue too much, and just concentrate on the screen with little figures so we can see exactly what's on the screen. But I think you did an exceptional job, and you improved greatly on what was feedback that was given on your last speech. So congratulations to you. I'm just waiting to hear your next speech, because that one was a great one. Fantastic. Well done. Mr. General Evaluator.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, our third evaluator is Jim Barber, who's evaluating Assyl.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. My fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guest this evening, and especially Assyl Boizhanova. Assyl, we spoke or texted back and forth beforehand, and you said that there were 3 areas that you wanted me to especially look at: your pronunciation, the speed at which you spoke, and your vocal variety. And so I will address those in particular. Let's start with pronunciation. This was a difficult speech to give in terms of pronunciation. You had a fair number of rather technical or difficult to pronounce words, such as, and some of them I couldn't jot down, but I managed to jot down electrical distribution standards. Not bad. I did not notice any pronunciation problems at all in there. I'm not saying that there weren't any. If there were, they escaped me. I didn't hear them. That was great. The speed at which you spoke. Oh, Assyl, you talked about dreams, and I can't think of anybody that has a calmer, a more soothing voice than you do. This was ideal for this sort of thing. It's almost hypnotic when you talk to us, and that was ideal for this sort of presentation. Vocal variety. I'm going to address that in the 2 areas, vocal and vocal variety. Vocal, same thing, calm, soothing, almost hypnotic. You're guaranteed everybody's blood pressure, I'm sure, dropped 5 points listening to you this presentation. That was fantastic. But variety, your speech would benefit, and pretty much any presentation will benefit from more variety in both your speed and your vocals, in your volume. I'll give you a suggestion, and it falls in one place. Towards the beginning of your presentation, you talked about a room that was labeled with a big H, and you were questioning whether the H meant heaven or hell, and you pronounced heaven or hell pretty much evenly. I think it would have been more effective if you had said heaven or hell, and you had made it clear that you were talking about something awful. If you can't do that, then lower your volume. Did the H stand for heaven or hell? Either way, you're going to get our attention. You can also do this a little bit later. You said that the H didn't stand for either one of those. It stood for human resources, which was a great bit of humor that I think escaped a lot of people because they didn't realize that you were being funny. They were calm and soothed by what you were saying. So there, a pause would have been very helpful. If you had said that the H didn't stand for heaven or hell, it stood for human resources. And that would have gotten our anticipation going. We would have wondered what you were saying. I can't let this get away. The red light is on, but you did a fantastic job of looking at the camera. Many people look at the gallery view like I'm doing right now. You didn't do that. You looked at the camera, and that is a great technique that a lot of people need to learn. You are a pro at it. This was a great presentation, Mr. General Evaluator.
Good. Thank you, Jim. Okay, John, how was the timing for the 3 evaluators? Did everybody qualify?
Yes, Mr. General Evaluator, everybody qualifies.
Great. Okay, so everybody cast your vote for the best evaluator, either Kashan, Scott, or Jim Barber. Send your votes to David in the private chat window. While you're doing that, I'm going to move on to who was our awe counter tonight? Did we have one? Jim Gold? He gives the awe counter report.
Absolutely. Let's see. Our voter today, Toastmaster David Carr, had a couple of ums. Let's see. Toastmaster Therese had several you-knows, so I had to count those. A couple of double clutches, and she used so a lot. Toastmaster Assyl, 3 ahs and a couple of so's to tie things together. With our table topics, Toastmaster Sybil had 4 ahs. Toastmaster Christopher had 1 ah. A couple of double clutches, that, and a couple of you-knows. Toastmaster Sherry, 2 ahs. Toastmaster Mike, 5 ahs. And Toastmaster Jimmy Dent, 3. Toastmaster Scott Johnson had 4 ahs and a double clutch. That's all I heard. Back to you.
Thank you, Jim. Our next functionary is our grammarian, Lou Brown.
Mr. General Evaluator, as far as some interesting phrases or words used, Christian had full circle. Jim Barber used hypnotic. Therese used pivot point, great use of that, and strategy, you strategically placed it. Mr. John Callaghan with empty nester. Assyl had harmonious and great use of alliteration with heaven, hell, and human resources. Made me think of, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's human resources. I only caught 1 incorrect usage of grammar. There could have been more. I'm a math major, as Therese may appreciate, although I have to check on that 37%. With Christopher, you said correct the wrong, maybe right the wrong instead of correct the wrong. And as far as polling, I did not hear any usage of the word of the day. If anyone else heard it, please let me know. So what I did is I substituted the word vote for polling. And of course, all of our table topic contestants use that word, except Mr. Jimmy Dent. You said pick, you said choose, you didn't use vote. Evaluator.
Okay, thank you, Lou. And next functionary is our watcher, Monica. What did you see tonight?
Okay, we had some really interesting backgrounds with Lois, and I love Scott's. And John, yours is always perfect. And I love the timing that you were doing where it would illuminate the entire screen. That's so easy to see. We did have a couple that were maybe a little off center. Sherry, for some reason, you're looking up and to my right all night. Even when you were talking, you were doing that. And Mary, you're kind of like me. I'm too dark in the screen and you're a little bit too light. So I've got to work on my lighting like you do. And Elaine, every once in a while you would be looking down and all I saw was the top of your head for like several different speeches. So, but overall, everybody looks really good in the screen and I look forward to seeing you guys next meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. And let's see, our next functionary is Nick, our chat monitor.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Not so much chatting going on. Really, I really would encourage you to actually start using more of that, because what you have is the ability to communicate, to use your brain, to actually exercise those things that you're not exercising while you're sitting and listening to all those wonderful speeches. Remember, I didn't say you can't type when somebody's speaking. I just said, please don't post it into the chat when somebody's speaking. That's different, okay? congratulations, well done. Lots of actual banter, lots of going back and forth, especially on lots of pictures of really fit guys on there. So where am I, Jacinta? Anyway, back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you. I gotta give my evaluation of the meeting now. I'm going to start off with the evaluators. I think the evaluators did a good job. They all used the sandwich method tonight. So they gave something positive and good, several items that they liked about the speeches, and then they got into what their suggestions were. And then they ended it with, again, something positive for the speaker. I especially like Jim Barber's explanation of how to use voice variety with heaven or hell. That was a good demonstration and some options, especially when you got to human resources, because you could imply that human resources was hell, which some people think it is. So I think the evaluators did a great job tonight. Good evaluations. The table topics, that was a very interesting subject and questions. I like the graphics with the table topics. That actually helped to remind you of the names. It gave a little more interest to it. In the one, I would have picked Sylvester Stallone in the one question, because I don't think at his age and his speaking, nobody would understand what he's saying. So it'd be very difficult for anybody to criticize him. And that's one of the reasons I kind of lean towards Mr. Bean at the end on my question. But it was very interesting and creative table topics, and preparing for the table topics with slides added to the preparation and fun part of it. So good job. At this point, are we ready to announce the winners, David?
We are, if David can find the unmute button, yes. To work backwards, well, for best evaluator, we have our perpetual winner, Jim Barber. As I will say that Christian gave him a run for his money. Table topics goes to Sherry, who I think had so much fun with that question that it was just infectious. And best speaker, John Callaghan. Welcome aboard, John.
Great, thank you. And now, in a minute, this is what we want to hear from our guests tonight. So first I want to hear from Sybil. Is she still here?
I am.
Yes, there you are. What did you think of our meeting tonight?
It was fun. It was really different, and you guys have extra roles that I'd never come across before. The chat monitor and the person watching the screens and all that. It was really, and I loved to see how the timer did the time. That was really cool. I didn't know to look there. It was kind of nice. Really fun. You guys are really professional and advanced. And it's nice hearing evaluations like you guys are giving. It's really fun.
Okay, thank you. We hope to see you back again. Please come back next week.
Okay.
And Bob Terrell, the silent TM. What did you think of our meeting tonight, Bob?
He's a silent Toastmaster.
Oh, okay. He's kind of quiet and mute. Sherry, where is Sherry at? There she is. What did you think of our meeting?
It was a wonderful meeting. It in many ways it feels just like a regular club meeting, but with the additional roles and everybody being an advanced communicator, I really have to echo what Sybil said. The evaluations just were. It seems like you can learn a lot from some of the more experienced Toastmasters. So it was really great. I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. You're definitely welcome back to come back next week and join us again.
Thank you.
Yes. Is Mark Womack still here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, there you are.
Yeah. So I guess Bob was the invisible guest, or was the silent guest, and I'm the invisible guest. Oh, ironic about that is I tried to try to get the video to work. It never quite kicked in, but I did want to thank the voters for choosing my wife to win the table topics. I can hear her echo, but I thought it was a great presentation by her as well. So anyway, this has been great fun for me to listen in, and
okay, great.
2 hours ago, I stayed up late because this was so interesting. So I'll plan to join again in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and we hope to see you next time. That's not an uncommon problem. Some people do have problems with their video from time to time. And next is Tamara. What did you think of our meeting tonight, Tamara?
Yes, thank you so much for the invite. I agree with Sybil and Sherry. It definitely was interesting to see the new roles, and it also was nice to be able to see an online meeting versus an in-person meeting. So it was interesting to see how people spoke online versus in person, as there are some things that are just easier to transfer in person versus online. So I do appreciate Jim's instructions and tips on how to make speeches better. So it was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I hope to see you back next week also. You're definitely welcome. Did I miss any of our guests? Christopher.
Yeah, just to echo everybody else, it was very educational. I'm actually the president of a corporate, I guess you would say non-online club. And so it was completely different. I was actually surprised how nervous I was doing a table topic, because I was like, I'm usually the first one up at our normal meetings. So yeah, this is completely different, especially being in a corporate environment. You would think we do video chats all the time. No, we're more on conference calls. So it's interesting how you get to see everybody's faces, and also remembering that your face is out for everybody else to see. So, in a way, it's kind of almost like being on television. You can't, pick your nose or whatever, or if you do, you're going to be seen by everybody. But no, it was very enlightening, and I will definitely be back next week, and hopefully I'll learn things from this club that I could possibly take back to my traditional club.
Okay, thank you. Was there anybody else I missed?
We have someone on the last screen.
We do have Bobo on the line. If Bobo can unmute him or herself. If not, I think that's it. Anyone else that has not had a chance to say hello? Jimmy, do you mind if I go ahead and make the announcement at this time?
Go right ahead.
Great. Well, first of all, happy Mother's Day to everyone, and that is coming up. Number 2, next week, Elaine is our Toastmaster of the evening. Do go log in and make sure that you click and pick the roles that you want, or confirm of the roles that you have already picked. If you are a speaker, enter those introductions. And kudos to all the speakers and the evaluator teams today, where a number of you, if not all of you, have talked to one another prior to the meeting. So you're getting things started, you're getting things set up, know exactly what the evaluators should be looking for besides just a generic form. Kudos to you. Keep doing that, and I encourage everybody to do so. Especially to our guests, on May 18th, Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, is our speechathon for May. And that is generally each month we will have one extra meeting. You could tell that right now we have 27 participants here. We have 43 official members in this club. Therefore, speaking spot is very tight, especially for those who have longer speeches. We try not to do them in our regular meeting. If you are a guest and you want to test it out and try to give a speech, let me know. My email address is dtmrogerfung@gmail.com. I'll put it in the chat box. I will give priorities, obviously, to our club members, but if we do have some extra spot, we will let you, our visitors, to test things out and give a speech or two to see if this is something that you would like to do. So again, our speechathon for this month is May 18th, Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern. The Zoom room will open up half an hour prior to that. It'll be an 1 hour. If you want to be an evaluator, you want to test out your evaluation skills, please do join us there. And that last comment is about the chat box. Just to let you know, for those of you who are not familiar or spend a lot of time online, this is a point where you can find 15 different answers. There are those who are on one end of the spectrum that says, hey, being online, the only way that we can show our engagement is continuously chatting, as if you're watching a YouTube live feed and you see people just typing uncontrollably. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is trying to marry our meetings like the brick and mortar. We're trying to be respectful. We don't do any typing or anything until the end. To me, as long as you're not being very distracted by writing a transcript, then that will be okay. Or you're pulling people away from what's going on. Now, of course, we are more strict when it comes to time when we have contests, so that it will not influence our votes. But if it's a regular meeting, I think somewhere in the middle where you can interact, if you see something that you want to, just as long as you don't do it in such a way that will pull everybody off aside. With that said, that's my comment. Go to David.
Yeah, just I always think, to the extent that we're trying to practice for professional skills, there's a very common scenario where you may be doing an online presentation and you don't have that video or audio interaction with your audience. You only have the chat to understand whether you're connecting with people. So that's true of Facebook Live. That's true of a lot of GoToMeeting presentations. So there is value in learning how to work with the chat as well. Let's put it that way.
I'll piggyback one more thing on what David's saying. Even if you are not typing into the chat, you want to keep an eye on the chat, because others may be sending you message like, hey, Roger, put your pants back on. That kind of thing, where somebody's going to try to help you out. So therefore, yes, even if you're not typing, this is part of the skill of being online, is that, hey, we might have to do 2 or 3 things at the same time, just so that we are very well aware of what's happening in our environment. That's all the announcements that I have. I'll give it back to our president, Jimmy Dent.
Okay, thank you. Make sure you go into our website and sign up for roles the next few weeks. You can do it for several weeks in advance. So it's more than just 1 week at a time. I have nothing else tonight.
How are we doing on time?
We're right at almost 6 o'clock. So we're very good.
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to tell Assyl how much I enjoyed her speech this evening. She really touched me. She's a gifted speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If any of you would like to save a copy of the chat, lower right-hand corner, the More button, click on it, and you can save your own copy if you want to do that. With that said, anything else before we close our meeting officially?
I just want to say thank you to all our helpers. You did a fabulous job. Our evaluators, our speakers, spot on, and it is 9. Let's do this.
Well, it was nice having that extra 15 minutes that we added and having the space for table topics. And we got in quite a few of them, actually. So that was great.
Yeah.
Jimmy?
Yeah. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Everybody.
It's officially adjourned. If you have